Let's get started on homeschooling high school. You know, everybody says you need to have a plan. You need to have a plan for high school for all 4 years so you know what to expect, so your student knows what to expect. But how do you make a plan? The first thing you need to do is figure out what you need. And by that, I mean how many credits do you need to graduate? And every state is different. The state of Kansas requires a minimum of 21 credits to graduate. And we have resources available that list out different high school plans. A general high school plan, so if you're looking at maybe 21 credits, which is kind of the base plan for the state of Kansas, upwards 24 credits or 28 to 32 credits, just depending on what you're looking for. The recommended high school credits: English 4 years, math 4 years, science 3 to 4 years, including 1 to 2 labs, history, or otherwise called social science, 3 to 4 years, PE 2 years, foreign language 2 to 3 years, fine arts 1 year, and 4 years of electives. You're going to want to aim for a minimum total of 24 credits. You might wonder, how do I get those credits? What is a credit? So think about by subject first. A year of Algebra 1, that would be 1 credit. A year of U.S. history, that would be 1 credit. Sometimes it's easy to count by books. You have a set curriculum for the subject. They finish the book or come close to finish the book, about 75% of the way done. You can count that as a credit. Other things like fine arts, maybe you have a student that plays piano, maybe they draw, and those things are a little bit harder to track as far as, is it worth a credit or a half a credit? And here's a way to think about it. How much time are they spending on that subject each day? Are they spending 30 minutes to an hour on that subject? Well, that's probably a credit-worthy subject. Are they spending under 30 minutes, more like 15 minutes a day practicing piano or 15 to 30 minutes drawing? Then maybe that's a half a credit. Sometimes you can take subjects like piano and drawing and pull them together to make 1 credit total because they're spending enough time each week to make it worth 1 credit. Now that you know what a credit is and how many credits your student needs to graduate from high school, we can go through each section and talk about how you would title a course, how you would keep track of that course, and how you would display that information on a transcript. Let's start with English. English, your student needs 4 years of English. So think about it. Every year in high school, they should be doing some type of writing, literature, grammar, that type of thing. Get creative. You can call it different things: grammar and composition, ancient literature, British literature, film as literature. Really, the possibilities are endless. Math, 4 years of math. There's a variety of maths. Of course, there's the standard Algebra 1, Algebra 2, geometry, advanced mathematics, calculus, trigonometry, and many others. There's also probability and statistics, consumer type maths, life skills type maths. Basically, you want to teach to your student's grade level. Science. Your student will want to have 3 to 4 years of science on their transcript. And this includes a minimum of 1 lab with dissections. Really, 2 is even better. Some of the traditional labs and ones that we offer at Legacy would be physical science lab, biology lab, or chemistry lab. And there's so many others. There's marine biology, there's physics, there's all kinds of sciences out there that you can choose that you can also do a lab with. So pick something that your student's interested in: history or social science, 3 to 4 years. This could include things like geography, world history, ancient history, U.S. history, all different types of history that you can study. Find something, again, that your student is interested in. PE. PE is something as homeschoolers we can count in a variety of ways. Does your student go out and play in the backyard, maybe skateboard down the sidewalk or ride bikes or go for a walk, go for a run with mom or dad? All of those things you can count towards PE. Make it fun and involve the entire family. Foreign language, 2 to 3 years. Most colleges want to see 2 years of foreign language on a transcript, and they want it to be generally the same language each year. Now, that's not set in stone. You really need to know what each college requires. Need to check that out. Maybe your student wants to go to a certain college, and you can look on that college's website and it will list it. Other colleges may not have that requirement. It just really depends college by college. Fine arts, 1 year. That could be something as simple as playing the piano or the flute or the violin or the guitar, drawing, maybe painting, graphic design, anything along those lines that we would consider a fine art. Electives, you'll want at least 4 years. Subjects like Bible, New Testament, Old Testament studies, those are electives. Other subjects like keyboarding or web page design, the list again is endless on electives. Find what your student's interested in and use those subjects. It'll make the other subjects that maybe they don't love, like math or history or science, a little bit easier to get through, knowing at some point in the day they're going to be doing something that they love. Okay, so you know what credits are. You know you need to have a plan. So start just filling in. There's resources that we have at the office, and I'm happy to send those to you. Blank forms with each year listed out in a line where you can write on there what you want your student to study each year, and to make sure you have all of the credits covered so that they can have that around 24 credits or maybe even more when they graduate. That way, whether or not they choose to go to college, they will have a transcript that is ready to apply to colleges if they so choose. Let's talk for a few minutes about dual enrollment. As many of you know, my daughter and my son have both taken classes at our local community college, and we've had a really great experience with that. And what's great is those classes count for high school and they count for college credit. The only catch sometimes on taking dual enrollment courses is not every class is necessarily going to transfer to the college that your child may end up attending. And in one way, that's okay. They got the experience of taking a class at a college level. It still counts on their high school transcript, so you can't take away the experience, but just keep that in mind that wherever your child ends up taking any type of dual enrollment classes, consider, are these classes transferable? And that's something you may not be able to answer until they apply for the college that they want to attend, maybe 2 years after taking that class. So it's still a great experience. Many colleges now are offering dual enrollment online. If you look at Liberty University, at Bryan University, at Boyce College, at Drury University, MNU here locally, Calvary University here locally, all offer dual enrollment classes that are about the same price as our local community college. So that's something else you can look into. Even if you know maybe the college your student wants to go to, maybe they're in 11th, 12th grade and they kind of have an idea of where they want to go. Check out that college. I bet they have a dual enrollment program that you could take advantage of for a reasonable cost compared to the actual cost of going there when they're in college after graduation. Grades. Grades need to be given. Eventually, once you compile the transcript at the end of 4 years of homeschooling your student, they need to be assigned grades. Now, of course, you want to be grading each year. Don't wait until their senior year to finally assign them grades. Track year by year, grade year by year, even semester by semester. And you might think, how do I give grades? Some things are easy to give grades, right? A math test, I get the teacher's manual out, I grade it, I see what they get. That's easy to assign them a grade. Science, kind of the same thing. Did they do the work? Did they take the test? How did they do on the test? I can give them grades. Things like writing, history, maybe subjects that are more subjective, and I just have to kind of see, how are they doing in this? How do I determine a grade? Well, part of it is know your child. Know your child's abilities. You may have one child that excels in a certain subject and doesn't do great in another subject, but they work hard at it consistently. And maybe you give them an A in a subject for their work than another child who you know could have done a better job. Maybe you give them a C. So you really need to know your student when assigning grades. Lee Binns, the home scholar, who is an awesome resource for all things homeschooling high school, she has a great way of gauging A, B, C, or D. If the parent is not annoyed, you should give your student an A. And that is so true. A lot of times in our house, my kids know if I'm irritated or frustrated, they are probably not doing A work. If I'm like, I'm not having any problems with this kid today, they got their math done or they got the reading done, then they're probably getting an A. So that's kind of a good way to gauge those subjects that are more difficult to grade. So during high school, sometimes we can get to the point where we're like, okay, here's your schoolwork, here's your list, get it done. And then maybe weeks go by, we haven't checked in, maybe things aren't getting done. So I would encourage you to have a weekly check-in with your students, see how they're doing. Sometimes we find ourselves expecting more than instructing, and I can do this with my own kids. I'll get very frustrated with them when they're not performing well in a subject or doing what I think they should be doing, what I think they know they should be doing because of maybe what I think of as common sense or life experience. But sometimes you have to take a step back and realize they don't have the life experience that we have. And maybe something that seems like it should be common sense or common knowledge to us isn't to them. And so if you find yourself frustrated or angry, you're probably expecting more than you're instructing. And I do it myself very often. And I have to kind of catch myself and stop and go, you know what? I maybe need to sit down with them today, go over this lesson so they know exactly what I'm asking them to do and aren't frustrated themselves, feeling like a parent's going to be upset with them or disappointed in them because they're not doing the work that we think they should be doing. As you begin your day and you're kind of scheduling out what subjects to do in what order, I would encourage you to put the weakest subject first. So whatever your student struggles with, that is what they should start the day with. Not because, we want to start the day on a down note, but because we want to start the day with the energy we have from a good night's rest or having breakfast. So get together and take care of that subject that they struggle with the most first. And you might say, well, they don't really struggle in any subjects. That's great. Put it in whatever order works best for you and for your time. Or you might say, they struggle in more than just one subject. Well, again, start with the hardest one, maybe the hardest one for you to teach them. Start with that one and then just progress throughout the day. Take little breaks here and there. Go for a walk. Another good tip is once you have worked through those subjects that they struggle with, give them something to look forward to. Let the day end on something they're excited about. Maybe they're working on a new song, composing on the piano or the guitar or the violin. Maybe they're writing poetry. Maybe you can't imagine your kids doing anything that, other than like playing a video game. Well, you know what? You get all your work done. Have some reward, have some incentive for them at the end of the day. You have your plans made. You have every year planned out, boxes to be checked. But then guess what? Life happens. We're humans. And your child might bomb their freshman year. But you know what? It's okay. Because guess what? You can make up subjects in a short amount of time. Maybe they just didn't get it. Maybe they just weren't there with their maturity to quite handle the jumping out without a raft and attempting high school. So slow things down. Just start over or maybe just back it up a little bit until they understand the concepts. Because that's the beauty of homeschooling, right? That F doesn't have to be permanent. You can say, let's sit down and talk about this. I know you can do better. And start fresh. Give them the chance to do well in high school. Figure out what's going to work best for each kid. And if you have a student that is college bound or somewhat plans on going to college or definitely plans on going to college, take some time to prep for some of these tests like the ACT, the SAT, or the CLT. You can go on to colleges' websites to see what tests they take. The CLT is a new test in the last 5 years. It's called the Classic Learning Test. You can Google it, the CLT test, but otherwise, of course, there's always the ACT and the SAT. And yes, I would spend time prepping for it. As much as we homeschoolers want to sort of buck the system or break the mold, sometimes you still have to teach the test. And that's something that if your student really, really is intent on going to college, will help them a lot. Because if you create this transcript and you have all these great classes and your students done really well and they've got straight A's, let's say they've got a 4.0 or a 3.75 or something like that, a really good GPA. If they totally bomb their ACT, which could happen to anybody because some people are just terrible test takers, but colleges are going to look at that transcript of the 4.0 and then a below average ACT score and maybe ask questions about your student and how those work together. You want their ACT score to reflect what's on their transcript. And there's always exceptions to that. There's always somebody that no matter how smart they are, how much they excel in every subject, they're just a bad test taker. And that's just something that you can take into consideration with the colleges that you're applying to. And that's another good idea to think about what your student is really good at. What do they excel in? And maybe there's something that's really obvious to you. Like my son, for instance, is really into fishing. He loves it. He loves to tournament fish. And surprisingly, there's colleges that offer full scholarships for fishing. So of course, I want him to focus on that. He loves it and he can get a scholarship for it. It's a win-win. Now, my daughter didn't necessarily have one particular thing that she was super interested in. She loved drawing, but then she would kind of go back and forth between other subjects. So she has decided to focus her attention on joining something like the National Guard or the Coast Guard Reserve, which can help pay for your college. So talk to your student. Again, you know them. Get to know them if you don't, and figure out what they're good at, what they're passionate about. And that's going to help you in building their transcript to help them get into the school that they want to, or just to help them with a career and direction later in life. Another good idea is to prepare for an emergency. You never know what's going to happen. You don't know if somebody's going to get sick, or maybe you're going to have to move, something like that. Just kind of think about that and prepare for it. Math is a subject that's hard to catch up on. So even if in a time of illness or in just a time of unknown certainties, you do just math and science, that you're getting through some subjects. Others you can catch up on. You can read a lot of history in a short amount of time. So just think about those subjects that build on skills and are a little bit harder to keep up with. And just even if you do those minimum subjects like what you're going to find on the ACT, right? Math, reading, science, and grammar. So even if you're just focusing on those 4 things for a time to get you through whatever season you're in, okay, you can catch up on those things at another time. And as always, we're here for you at Legacy. So if you have questions, if you want more details on how we did something, not because we're experts or because we've arrived with all the answers, but we've just started to walk through it. I am in the midst of graduating my first child. Sally also is in the midst of graduating her first child. So we're walking through it with you. We're walking through it with more kids coming behind them. And so we just want to be here for you as a community to join together and encourage you that you can homeschool high school. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. What else?